I can have your attention, please. I'd like to reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting. The time is approximately 1:30 in the afternoon. Next on the agenda is the acceptance of the proof of publication.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, like sign. Motion passes. And again, Commissioner Zimbow will not be present. He had a long-term family commitment that he is out of town. So these are the rules for a public hearing and our procedures. Our staff will present each item for consideration with staff's recommendation. The board will have an opportunity to ask questions when staff presentation is finished. The applicant will have the opportunity next to make the presentation. The board will also be giving a chance to speak to the presenter when they're done. Members of the public interested in speaking for or against the project issue, please fill out the yellow speaker form located in the lobby, indicate the item and whether you're for or against it, and place it in the tray in the lobby. But since it's getting a little bit late, please give it to Shani Beach. She's sitting right here. Members of the public will be allowed once per item to speak. If you'd like to have your comments submitted on the record, please fill out the green speaker form in the table in the lobby, and then also either place it in the tray or give it to Ms. Beach, as we just spoke about. Each speaker should state their name and address clearly for the record, or whether they're for or against the item. Speakers will be given 3 minutes unless they are official spokesperson of an HOA or a legal organization. Please let us know ahead of time, and you'll be given 6 minutes. If the board member has any questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity to be given once the speaker time has expired. Speakers should limit their comments to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. The clerk is required to retain all documents, photographs, drawings, or anything that's presented to the board so we can have a clear and precise public record. Anything that's presented to the Board of County Commissioners. So, if you show it to us, please be prepared to leave it with the clerk. Once all the speakers are heard, the applicant will be given an opportunity to rebut if necessary. That's not another presentation, just a rebuttal. We'll close public hearing, put the matters in the hands of the commissioners to discuss a recommendation or a motion. Following a motion and a second, the board will have a discussion. A vote will be taken. Commissioners who do not cast an objecting vote are considered to be in vote in favor of the motion. On the quasi-judicial part of the meeting, Florida law requires that the board's discussion and quasi-judicial action be supported by competent substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing of the applicant. Competent substantial evidence is such evidence as reasonable in mind that would be acceptable to acquire, adequate to support a conclusion. There must be factual base of record to support the testimony, either from both an expert or non-expert witness. And again, if you do show it to us, be prepared to leave it with the clerk, any information. Has any commissioners received any oral or written communication regarding quasi-judicial items? If so, please declare it and present it to the clerk.
I have none.
None.
And I have none either. At this time, we'll go to the first public hearing, which is item number 30, which is a right-of-way vacate. This time we'll hear from staff.
Good afternoon. Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. This is a request to consider a resolution to vacate an uncut portion of public right-of-way known as Brick Road, lying between the east right-of-way line of Grant Line Road and the south right-of-way line of Wayside Drive. The applicants own the property adjacent to the north and south of the subject uncut right-of-way and would like to incorporate the subject site into their property. The applicant has provided letters of no objection from all utility companies, and Public Works has no objection to the request. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the resolution vacating and abandoning an uncut portion of public right-of-way known as Brick Road, lying between the east right-of-way line of Grant Line Road and the south right-of-way line of Wayside Drive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll go to the applicant. Is the applicant present?
Paul Watson, 4935 Wayside Drive, and I have no objections to what the staff has recommended.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Okay, do we have any written requests? We have no written requests, either for or against. Anyone in the audience that'd like to speak on this project, either for or against, this will be that time. Seeing none, we'll close public input. This is a District 5 item. We'll ask the District Commissioner for the recommendation.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, despite the fact that he looks like a shady character, I think I'm going to support this.
Well, just for the record, I know you're meaning that in jest.
Yes.
Mr. Watson has been a long-term friend of many of the commissioners, so Paul, please take that in good.
He did.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Paul, it was a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next, we'll move into item number 31.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Doug Robinson with Development Services. This item is for a rezone, Southern Development and Construction for a contractor's equipment and storage yard to support their primary building, which is located on the south side of Connection Point Road, just outside of the photograph there, on the right side. The subject property has an industrial future land use designation, which does provide appropriate locations for heavy commercial uses oriented towards wholesale distribution, storage, and other industrial uses. The property proposes access onto Connection Point, which is classified as a local road, which then connects to State Road 426, which is a minor arterial, currently operating at level service C. The site is within the Seminole County's utility service area and will be required to connect to public utilities. Water and sewer capacity is available for the proposed development. The site will meet all Land Development Code site plan requirements, including buffers and open space requirements, which will be determined during site plan review. Staff finds the proposed rezone compatible with the surrounding development and consistent with the allowable use and density provisions of the industrial future land use designation. We also find the proposed rezoning to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Community meeting was held for this project back in December of 2021, December 20th. The community meeting summary should be in your packets. In conclusion, staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture to C3 commercial, general commercial and wholesale for a contractor's equipment and storage yard on approximately 1.26 acres located on the north side of Connection Point, approximately 1/4 mile west of State Road 426. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll now go to the applicant. Is the applicant present? Is the applicant present? Have the record show the applicant is not present, and we'll go into the public input. Do we have any written requests?
No, sir.
Anyone in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this? Anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this? We'll close public input. Since this is a District 1, I'd like to make the motion to recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopting the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agricultural to C3 general commercial and wholesale on approximately 1.23 acres located on the north side of Connection Point, approximately 1/4 mile west of State Road 426.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Now move on to item number 32.
Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. This is a request to consider a resolution to vacate and abandon an uncut portion of an unnamed right-of-way as recorded in Plat Book 2, pages 54 through 58 in the public records of Seminole County, lying on the east side of County Road 419 and west of Langford Avenue. The applicant owns the property adjacent to the north and south of the subject site and proposes to redevelop the surrounding property, including the subject portion of right-of-way, as residential subdivision. The applicant has provided letters of no objection, and Public Works has no objection to the request. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the resolution vacating and abandoning an uncut portion of unnamed right-of-way as recorded in Plat Book 2, pages 54 through 58 of the Seminole County Public Records. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Thank you, Joy. Is the applicant present? I'm sorry. Commissioner Constantine, you had a question for staff?
Just one question. It is my understanding that this property is going to be used for affordable housing?
There is a rezone, a current application for a rezone that will be coming to the board next month, yes.
Thank you.
But the decision is based on the evidence that's presented us today.
Correct.
That's correct.
It was just a question.
Yes, that's correct.
Good afternoon. For the record, sorry I got thrown off with the Kimberly Hall Fisher, but Kim Fisher, 1614 White Dove Drive, Winter Springs. And I agree with staff, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Any
Thanks.
questions for the applicant? Thank you. Any written requests? Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this? Anyone in the audience that'd like to speak for or against this? Please give us your name and address for the record, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's an honor to be in chamber here today, and for the record, my name is Thomas Glover. I'm here.
Can you give us your address, please?
Thank you. Also, my address is 827 Hamilton Drive, Orlando 32833, from a neighboring community in the adjoining county. And I'm standing here today as first person expressing that my neighbors and us wish to express our concerns over the aesthetic values that our community has been pushing forward as a multi-generational value which can be held for our next that are touring, and traveling and touring. And so that pathway in which the county road 419 is cut on is traveling through a forest way that is natural pathways. And so speaking to that, natural pathways draws a certain road and its existence is influencing the neighboring communities, both in its great values and also in what seems to be in a certain attraction. And so our communities are working with those wonderful attributes, such as what is pleasing to the drivers as they pass by, or future generations that may arrive. And so we wish that our communities that have forethought wish to ask that maybe there be a postponement by the applicants to reconsider their pathways. And if there was, wonderful to see the hearing, signs placed up there. Have noticed over the last several months of time, have noticed that there's all kinds of interests that people have found themselves participating in on their visual screens, on their handheld things. And however, we've found that our community's assets have become endangered because of some ideas. So we ask that the applicants reconsider for a postponement or whatever. I don't know what. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'll myself, I can be contacted. However, we wish to also, our group wishes to find a way to communicate. Thank you for my time speaking today. We're opposed to any destruction. We'd like to keep the natural appeal. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir, you do realize this is just a vacate of the right-of-way. We're not doing a rezone at this point.
Pardon for speaking over, sir.
That's all right.
May I hear your question again, sir?
This is just a vacate of the right-of-way.
We may not realize the dangers total in little pieces or parts, but we do wish to maintain the values and continue to prosper.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else in the audience would like to speak either for or against this? We'll close public input. Public input's now closed. Any questions or comments from the board? I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution vacating the abandonment of the uncut portion of the unnamed right-of-way as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 54 through 58 in the public records of Seminole County, Florida, as presented here today.
Second.
Distracted.
Any discussion on the motion or the second?
Oh, look, a bird.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Item number 33 is next. I've been asked that staff is going to be requesting this be pulled.
Yes, again, Doug Robinson, Development Services. Yes, this is the South Elder Road vacate. We don't have any information to put on the screen for you today, but staff is working to finalize easement agreements, and they weren't ready quite in time to get to you today. So I apologize having that.
So you're asking for a date
A
specific?
continuation to the July 26th.
So moved.
Board meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I didn't see it.
Cheney, do we have any written requests about the continuance? No, sir. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to discuss the continuance only? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. We're now going to go into the public hearing legislative, which is item number 34.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'd ask that you take 34 and 35 together since they're linked. 35 is actually a consent agenda item that I pushed to the public hearing because they need to be heard at the exact same time. Alan Harris, Chief Administrator for the Office of Emergency Management, we're bringing forward to you a request to change the ordinance. I'm sorry Commissioner Zimbauer isn't here today. He had mentioned this the last time we were talking about changes to the ordinance. But this would eliminate the animal license and tag program in Chapter 20, Animal and Fowl. The program was a very good program decades ago before the introduction and heavy use of microchips and also the new technology that links veterinary offices with our animal services office. Now we instantly get rabies and vaccination shots directly input into our systems. So when we dispatch officers to scenes, we already know the vaccination records of the individual dogs that are, or other animals that are there. We also use the animal license and tag program to reunite individuals when there was a lost or stray animal. We have found better ways of doing that, of course, with the introduction of social media, with the introduction, of course, of our websites, and then microchips, as I had mentioned. So staff recommends that the board approve a change to Seminole County Code 20, Animal and Fowl, to remove the animal license and tag program, and also adopt a resolution, which is number 35, adopt a resolution that would amend the administrative code 20-5 in animal services to eliminate the fees related to individuals having pets.
Any questions for staff? I'd like to do these individually by two separate motions if there are no objections. Any questions for staff?
No.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Since this is the staff initiative, there's no applicant. Is there any written request to speak?
No, sir.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak for item number 34? Seeing none, we'll close public input on 34. Is there direction from the board?
Move approval of changes to Seminole County Code 20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, everybody saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Now we'll go on to item number 35.
Move a resolution amending Seminole County Administrative Code 2025.
Second.
Okay, and just for clarity, is there any written request?
No, sir.
Anyone in the audience who want to speak to us on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public input.
And for
We have a
clarity, it's 20.5, not 2025. That's the future.
Thank you for that correction. Seeing no other further discussion and clarification, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. This time we go to item number 36. Staff is asking for continuance.
Jeff Hopper of Development Services. This is item 36. Staff is asking for continuance to the July 26th meeting so that we can bring you an updated draft code based on a more recent version of the model ordinance. I don't know if you want me to backtrack into the background of this, but
You're only
we
asking
just
for-
want to bring you the very latest and greatest.
And Jeff, you're only asking for continuance right now,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. Any questions for staff on the continuance? Thank you, Jeff. Shani, any requests about the continuance?
No, sir.
Anyone in the audience would like to speak to us about the continuance? Seeing none, we'll close public input. Board direction?
So moved.
Continue.
To a particular date or whatever?
Particular date,
Would you like to have a particular date?
July 26th.
July 26th.
Okay, that's the motion, July
Second.
26th. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Jeff. This time we'll go to the county manager report. Ms. Johnson, you have an update on the Envision Seminole update?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, at our last board meeting, the board requested additional information with respect to the Envision Seminole 2045 outreach plan. So we've asked Development Services and Community Relations to provide an update to you about both what the team has been doing and then some recommendations to you moving forward. We've had some visual aids put together just so you can get a better idea about what's been out there, and also some statistics have been handed out to you in a packet. So with that, I will turn it over to Rebecca Hammock.
Good afternoon. For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. Ashley Moore and I are going to present the information that was outlined by Tricia. So I'm going to do a quick introduction, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, and then I'll come back at the end of the presentation with some follow-up.
Thank you.
So this was put together by Development Services and Community Information. So, as you know, we're working on the Envision Seminole 2045 effort. The purpose of that effort is to gather ideas for development of a shared vision for Seminole County's future so that we can create a plan for that vision over time. The purpose of the visioning process is to allow community leaders to respond to emerging trends and issues, and it allows planners to create a long-term vision for the community. And a main focus of the process is to initiate community conversation that will guide the preparation of the evaluation and appraisal report that is required by the state every 7 years. And as you know, ours is due December 1st of this year. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley to give an update on what we've done so far in terms of community outreach.
For the record, Ashley Moore, Community Relations Officer for Seminole County. I distributed early this morning a packet that has some more in-depth information in terms of outreach, but we'll start with media. So we had 12 known media inquiries. These were included on the media report that we distribute daily. I get to use the clicker. So we sent out 5 press releases. A couple of those were media avails where we just let some of our reporter friends know that, hey, we've got some interviews that we can handle today to make sure that we've got a visual to accompany the stories that we're asking you to present. In addition to that, we had 14 actual news stories. That's what we were able to find. When it comes to social media, I know this was a big question at the last meeting, so I wanted to go over that quickly. We had 16 posts on Facebook. In terms of impressions, we had just over 50,000 of them. So this is inclusive of our regular posts and our story posts. So if you're familiar, the way you swipe this way is the stories and this way is the regular posts. We also created some engaging poll type tools where we did those twice. We had probably around 200 people engage with those. So not a wildly high number, but some good participation. Instagram basically mimicked what Facebook did. We have a lower audience on Instagram. So in terms of total impressions, 5,744. When it comes to Twitter, we had 10 posts, just over 13,000 total impressions there. Nextdoor, I'd like to thank Ms. Esposito for making mention at last meeting of the few times that she saw it on Nextdoor, but we actually posted 8 times. And those were countywide posts, and in terms of impressions, we had over 25,000 impressions. When it comes to YouTube, this is something that we didn't promote a ton, but we did have it on the website. So if people wanted to, as they were getting ready to take some of the surveys, they could click on the videos here to learn more about what we're doing. So we had 848 total views on all of our videos on YouTube. When it comes to the website, I know there were some questions about the homepage. So the homepage of SeminoleCountyFL.gov is screenshotted right up here. From the homepage, we had 131 individuals click through to go to the page for that. We also created a short link. So we wanted to keep everything in brand as best we could. So we created SeminoleCountyFL.gov/Envision Seminole 2045. A little bit long, but again, the branding was important to us. And people that used that link specifically, there were 211 individuals that used that short link. Of those, 192 of those were unique clicks. When it comes to the page views, though, because of course this was a this wasn't on our website. This was a public input website that the consultant created. They provided us with a statistic just under 6,000 page views. So when it comes to other outreach, I know there was some mention about the chamber and engaging the chamber. We were included in their newsletter 4 times. We didn't go to their meetings, but we were in their newsletter, so I wanted to make sure that we made mention of that. We gave a presentation at a Geneva networking group meeting on June the 20th. And of course, SGTV is running our PSAs that are the same videos that are on our YouTube channel. I think it's important to make mention that all that was done with just staff time. So that wasn't using any paid ads or any sort of marketing budget. When it comes to the listening tour, the visioning tour, and the surveys, the numbers are up there, but those, of course, were the meetings that we held that the consultant conducted. Kanan also provided you guys with a memo inside of the packet here that lists all of the stakeholders that they reached out to and the 12 stakeholder interviews that actually were conducted. So we reached out to 140 of these groups. So staff worked with the consultant to identify these 140 stakeholder groups. So of those 140, 12 interviews were conducted. In addition to that, we provided the meeting flyer to the library system for circulation at all of the branches. We emailed our HOA contacts. So those HOA contacts we have through emergency management and solid waste. So when we go to do our, the right of entry forms, we use the same database from the right of entry forms to find those folks. The consultant also created an online stakeholder database. So on the website, individuals could go in and sign up to receive updates regarding Envision Seminole 2045. So that's where you see that 300 number from. In addition to that, we had 4 ads that ran in the Seminole Extra part of the Orlando Sentinel, and it also ran on their website, orlandosentinel.com, for a total of 3 weeks. I have asked for the number of impressions and the circulation for those. I'm still waiting on that number, so once I have it, I'll provide it. So let's talk about moving forward. Now I'm going to hand it back to Rebecca.
So moving forward, this is the schedule. As I mentioned earlier, the evaluation and appraisal report, which is, just for those listening in the audience, if they're not familiar, it is a report that is required by the state every 7 years, where you do an evaluation of your comprehensive plan and you identify any goals, objectives, or policies within the comprehensive plan that you would like to amend, as well as any required amendments based on Florida statutes. So since ours is due on December 1st, we've worked backwards from there for our schedule. And so for any future public engagement, we're looking at a deadline of October 3rd. So we would like any responses back from the public on surveys or any other type of meetings and things we would need responses on. The deadline there is October 3rd. We would then like to bring the evaluation and appraisal report to the Planning and Zoning Commission or local planning agency on November 2nd to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, and then we would bring it to the board on November 8th. So as you can see, we do have a little bit of a limited time frame. So at the last meeting, when we were providing an update on the visioning process, there was some discussion about doing public opinion survey versus a statistical survey. So we were able to do a little bit of research This is an example of a survey that was done by Hill Research Consultants. It was done in association with the Parks and Recreation and Public Lands Program survey that was done. And this was a statistical survey that was done by phone. They identified that they would need around 300 to 400 respondents, and people that would actually complete the phone survey. Ultimately, they were able to complete 302 surveys, which had a little bit over a 5% margin of error, and the cost to do that was between $25,000 and $50,000. This is an example of a non-statistical opinion survey, and if we, based on our population size, the recommendation by this resource is to contact the maximum amount of 1,000, which would yield a little bit less than a 3% margin of error. And this would be, so if we were looking for a response to a survey or for input, we'd be looking at around 1,000 persons. So for our next outreach efforts, anything that we do moving forward, they would be geared towards our next steps in the process, which would be the Community Visioning Conference and the final visioning tour and survey. We have opened up the priority survey on the website again, since I think there was some concern about the number of people that had responded to that initially. But moving forward, all of the suggestions that Ashley's going to go through when she comes back up to speak, we are recommending those for the next steps, which is the Community Visioning Conference and the final visioning tour and survey. So the question we want to pose to the board is, what is the goal number of respondents that you would like us to try to reach based on the non-statistical opinion survey versus the statistical? Unfortunately, given our time parameters and budget, it may be difficult to do the phone survey that was done for the Leisure Services Program, but we could certainly try to reach that 1,000 number of respondents.
Is that it? I want to make sure, before I ask the board for comments, is there anything else you'd like to?
That's all for my presentation, but I was hoping to get feedback on
You
how.
will.
Yes,
You
okay.
will. Just want to make sure we're done with your presentation first.
But I am going to turn it over to Ashley.
So it's a little bit of up and down. There's some more things that we certainly could have done given a budget and given time. So we wanted to present some other options that we could use moving forward for the next round of the Envision process. So of course, everything that we had done before with social media, et cetera. But in addition to that, we discussed bill stuffers. So of our utility bill customers, we have about 34,500 households that receive paper bills. So we could do a bill stuffer around $1,500 that would go into every utility bill that gets mailed to our residents. With respect to postcards, obviously that's going to be variable on the number of postcards we're actually sending. The rates that you see here are inclusive of postage and printing. So we would send that to a bulk mail house where we could print and distribute postcards. 80 cents a piece is a nice glossy, kind of 5x7, colorful, catchy piece that we would consider sending out. If you wanted to go black and white, flimsy paper, we'd be closer to that 50 cents per postcard mark. Snipe signs are also an option. I know they're probably not in code everywhere, but places where we could stick snipe signs, we could do that at the rate of about $5 or $6 each. So if we had community partners that'd be willing to put signs out front that had a QR code to the surveys, this might be an option. Billboards, of course, are an option as well. Our recommendation would be the electronic billboards so we can change the message with different countdowns, et cetera. That's obviously driven on market rate, depending on what's available, date range, just a number of variables that would change the cost of those. Targeted web ads are also an option. Again, variable in rate, depending on the avenue that you wanted to take for those. But we could certainly do Google ads, social ads, streaming service ads, et cetera. This is something that we did during COVID to share some of our critical information. It was pretty successful. So depending on what what you guys wanted to do is something we could consider. So other opportunities might include meeting presentations. I know this is something that was discussed at the last meeting. Obviously, the biggest challenge there is just resources, right? Do we have the staff time? Is it going to align with these partner stakeholder group times when they gather, that's really our biggest challenge, is just the resources in terms of getting staff there. One low-hanging fruit thing that we could do is put signage at all of our computer stations, so places where people are online naturally, at our libraries and our customer service stations at community services. That might be an avenue. We got really creative here. So we floated the idea of having an employee drawing, so a drawing for a gift card based on social shares. So the way that would work is if an employee shared the link on social media, they could send a snapshot of that to us, screenshot, and we would enter them in for a drawing. So just an interesting way to get our staff engaged in the process. One thing that Rebecca and I actually talked about this morning that's not up there, and we haven't done a ton of research on, is focus groups. So if that's something that the board had an interest in, we'd have to move pretty quickly on getting that set up, but we could certainly look into the cost and feasibility of a focus group as well. And that's all I have.
Before we go to the board, do we have any written requests to speak? Anyone in the audience that'd like to speak on this topic? We'll close public input, ask for board discussion. Board members? Commissioner Lockhart, then Commissioner Herr.
So more input is better always, but in addition to just having quantitatively more input, I think qualitative input is also what we're driving for, I think. Free response is usually something that can give us a better idea of if someone's coming up with it on their own, as opposed to being driven between these 5 choices. We've kind of decided for them, these are the 5 things you have to pick from. Maybe where their brain isn't even one of those 5. With a free response, it's their own free response. So I would think about that. I'm not sure. We've worked with Datanautics in the past on those types of surveys. That might be something we'd want to look at again. I think we already have a contract with them. The specific question that Rebecca asked, I think, was how many people is the board wanting to have? I think, if 1,000 is the number that would be the goal, I think that's a great goal if that gets us to 3%-ish margin of error. If we're talking about doing that type of a poll. I don't know that that's really exactly what we were talking about doing, a poll like that, but again, for me, if we keep asking the same questions in the same groups, we're not going to get the representation from the people who are working 9 to 5 and just doing their job and making sure the kids get to summer camp on time and getting home. The folks that sit in the library and surf the internet have the time to click on the QR code, right? So not saying there's anything wrong with the people who sit in the library on the computer, but it's an entirely different demographic, and I feel like we're not getting the opinions of the people who are in a completely different place in their lives because this isn't on their It's not on their radar.
Right. And we may not still, but I think if we engage in what Ashley's recommending, I think we can make more people aware of it and then hopefully encourage those other demographic groups to participate. They still may not. So what we're recommending is we'll do all these additional things that we've done a certain amount of public outreach. So in addition, we can do the things that Ashley is suggesting, and then hopefully we can get to a higher number of participation. But I don't know that we'll necessarily reach 1,000, but we can certainly try.
Thank you. Commissioner Herr?
I'm not sure I understood what you were suggesting, Ashley. I think you gave a bunch of ideas, but I didn't see a recommendation and a total cost for the recommendation.
Sure. So, and I guess we could work backwards, right? Like, what would a reasonable budget be? Or we could provide you some hard numbers based on the number. So we're really looking to determine the number of respondents. So if it is that 1,000, then I think we can make...
Just call it 1,000 for purposes of
Okay, we'll call it
the
1,000.
dialogue.
Great. Then if we're looking for 1,000, then I don't know that a postcard would necessarily be the best way to reach people considering the cost of it. But we would go through that kind of menu of options and come up with a recommendation. Those are ideas, like you said. So we could come up with a recommendation based on the 1,000 number for sure.
So let's take us back through your
Go
the
back.
menu.
I'm trying to remember.
Because
There was a
time
lot.
is,
Oh, wait, I know what
I
to
heard
say.
loud and clear, we're up against a timeline, so your time to bring back a recommendation later may not be our best option.
Oh, we could have it by next week, emailed to you all if that's an option. So bill stuffers. So this one has a unique set of challenges on its own, right? So the way we send bills is daily. So we would have to provide a 2-week lead time to the company that prints our paper bills. So we would need 2 weeks to get them what they need, and then we would need 30 days for them to mail every single day in this mail the bill stuffer. And then, of course, time for respondents to get back to them. So if we wanted to go with the bill stuffer option at about $1,500, that's something we would need to move on pretty quickly.
And what do you think the return on that will be?
So let me give you perspective on this too. So of our customers, half of them receive paper bills. The other half receive electronic bills. So I would be inclined to believe that the folks who are receiving the electronic bills are more likely to, and this is just a guess, but more likely to participate in an online survey. If I were to guess on return, I'd say 10%, maybe. But I really can't see of that group that many people
So
actually.
10% would be 3,400, which would be way above the 1,000. At 1% return, you have another 345 that are in the bucket. So for $1,500, I would do that one.
Okay.
So this is kind of how I'm thinking we need to.
No, I like this. Okay, that's great. I think that's good feedback.
Can we just stay right there?
Sure.
So that's with the utilities that we provide. That's not the city utilities.
Correct. So, so one of the things that's important to note too, when we talked to the consultant about who we wanted to target for this particular outreach, we asked the question, should we be approaching only unincorporated Seminole residents because this is affecting their land development code, or should we be inclusive of the folks that live within city limits? And the consultant recommended that we reach countywide and not specifically to unincorporated residents. So that would skew the data a little bit in terms of respondents to reflect just the folks that live in unincorporated Seminole County. So something to consider.
So from a practical application perspective, given that I really don't think it's 10%, I think it's closer to 1%, it's probably 0.5%, but it's still worth trying to get to we're trying to get to 1,000, that's 10% of that number. The slow down process to do it with all the cities is probably not worth the effort to try to do it, so I'm okay with that being skewed because the return's going to be so low. So is there a dollar value on the postcards?
So with respect to the postcards, you're looking at roughly 50 to 80 cents per mailer, right? So per postcard. So if you look at the number of households that we have countywide, and you went on the high side of that, which is the nice color 5x7 postcard that would probably get a little more attention, that's pretty pricey. That's $157,000. So that doesn't seem like it's a good return for the number of respondents that we're looking for. Similarly, if we only went to unincorporated households, that'd be 107,000 households, and that would be 85,970. That doesn't seem right. I think I meant 180. No, it is right. Okay, all right, I did good math. Yeah, so $85,000, again, to yield 1,000 respondents, it just doesn't seem like a good investment. So I would probably opt against postcards. We just wanted to give you the option and the price point for those. Snipe signs, again, did they do a lot?
Not
sure. It's a visual. It's a marketing tool, but not necessarily going to drive people to actually take the survey.
Not in campaign season. Same with the postcards.
Oh, yeah,
Nope.
good idea.
Lost in the shuffle.
Billboards, that's another one that I probably would say it'd be nice just to have, from a marketing perspective, one of your 7 touches in order to get people to take action. Is that going to be the driver of having somebody take a survey? Doubtful.
Can I just stop on that billboard?
Go right ahead, because I was going to add something. You go first.
Sure.
So I thought we had an agreement
We do?
that they had to provide to us a certain number of free advertising slots per year.
They do.
So have we looked at, free is free.
I don't want to answer that, Rebecca. Does that exist still?
Yeah. I don't think it's just emergency.
So, okay, all right. So I'll go back over to Alan. And I know for a fact during COVID, we paid for our billboards. So there wasn't, I think that was,
Mr. Allen, can you mind coming to the
Sorry.
podium, please? Give us your name and your department you represent.
You want me to do it?
It's fine.
Alan Harris, Chief Administrator for the Office of Emergency Management. We We do get some time on the billboards. They're the worst of the worst billboards, and it's the worst times possible. And when they give them to us, if you really want to get attention, this is not the way to go, because it's going to be from your 12 to 5 a.m. time slots, and you will be every 7th or 8th. They're going to put it on your electronic, so about every 7th or 8th kick, it'll show us up. So it's not as good as it sounds. It's nice, but it's not as good as it sounds.
Thank you.
Freeze free.
That being said, depending on the message and the type of inventory, they have been more generous, especially Clear Channel, with providing us with more than what we pay for in terms of time slots, locations. Again, it's inventory driven. So something to consider there. But again, I wouldn't recommend it if we're reliant. So if I had to pick one tool in the toolkit, that wouldn't be it.
Well, and I don't think one tool is ever the way to go. I think we need to have multiple tools in the toolbox and use as many as we can, as efficiently as we can. Because, again, if you're only targeting in a specific way, you're only going to get a certain demographic. So there might be people who are driving to their shift at the hospital at, 5 o'clock in the morning that might see the 5 o'clock billboard, I don't know.
Commissioners, we want to get as much input, much transparency out there. $1,500 is real money, but at the same token, I think you're going to get a good bang for the buck. I think you do the $1,500 plus you do whatever billboards that we can get for free. That's the way I look at it. Commissioner Herr?
I still want to go through the rest of the opportunities, because I think if we're going to face out to this community and say that we did everything we could possibly do, we can't cut the conversation short. I really don't think we can. So the free billboard, is that free creative?
We do the creative in-house, so it's...
Okay. So, and it's a call to action billboard with a QR code. I would just point that out. So throw it in there if we can get it to happen. So let's talk about web ads.
So the web ads would be my recommendation if we're trying to reach specific target age ranges. So when we talk about young families, this may be the way to reach the young families. And these you can set your own budget for. So if your goal is to have 1,000 listens on Spotify, or if you're trying to reach 500 people on Facebook, you can target that demographic, which is really nice. So if we were looking to target ads, I would say that the online ads are the way to go. And that we can set the budget for. So if I were to throw rough numbers out there in terms of having 1,000 views for a particular ad that we would put out, I would say in Seminole County, if we set our age range for probably 18 to 45, reaching, right, like so views of our ad, I would say that would cost us probably under $300. So again, the social ads aren't incredibly expensive. It's getting them to act upon those social ads that we're sending out. So we need to clarify the message too there as well.
And I would extend the demographic, because the likelihood of response is going to come from a crowd that isn't all completely absorbed with soccer and football and summer camp and all of that. And we need as much response as we can get. I still think that will be a different demographic from what I would call our local activists, which are well and wonderful and maybe saying the same thing as everyone else, but I want to know that we have done everything we can to solicit the input of the greater community.
And I think that's where we get to the next point on meeting presentations. I think when you have an active, engaged audience in front of you that can ask questions, that you're providing a handout to with a QR code and going through a brief presentation on what we're trying to do by updating the vision plan rather, I think that's probably going to be the most effective way that we're going to get respondents, is looking people in their eyes and saying, we need you. Again, the problem is resources. When can we get in front of these groups? How many staff do we have that can actually do that, et cetera? But it's something that would be low cost, no cost. So I would say that that's a non-negotiable. I think we need to do our best to reach out to more stakeholder groups and get those arranged. The next option, that's just low-hanging fruit in my opinion. This is a no-cost, easy add-on, and that's just putting signs or QR codes or flyers right in front of computer stations where people are natively browsing the internet or what have you. The employee drawing, that was just a fun one we came up with. So that's just a way to engage our 1,500 employees and hope that they could all reach out to their networks, which are probably inclusive of each a few hundred people, quickly and easily. So the ones here are probably super low budget, low hanging fruit. In my opinion, we would do all the last ones on this slide. Just off the cuff, I would say billboards, probably not the best option in terms of getting people to act. Targeted web ads, I would absolutely do. And I would say it would just be driven on how many respondents we're looking to have. So if the 1,000 is the number, maybe we want to go 10 times that much, and we can come up with a budget based off of that. And I would use multiple ads. I wouldn't say just Facebook or just Instagram. I would go everywhere that we have a presence. We can even do paid ads on Nextdoor too, so it might be something to consider. Typically, we find that the folks on Nextdoor are a little bit more engaged in the community, so those will be the ones that are more likely to take the survey. Bill stuffers at the rate of $1,500, I think it's $1,500 well spent. It does skew the data slightly to just be unincorporated residents. Postcards, I think, are out of the question given cost. And the snipe signs, it doesn't sound like anybody wants snipe signs, so we'll take those off the list too.
So Ashley, could you bring us back something at the next meeting?
Oh, absolutely. I can probably have something circulated sooner than that.
We don't have time.
Why, can we not just vote on it right here?
You could do a lot of things. I'm just trying to see what you want to do.
So let me just throw something out there for discussion. Yes to the $1,500 on the ads. I'd throw another $6,000 at the social media ads, because you mentioned 300, that's a really decent number. The multiple is a good one to get to the numbers that we need to get to. Yes, on the community meetings, and expand the speaker boards as large, the speaker bureau as large as you can get it. Do the employee drawings, get the free billboards if you can get them, and the rest I would not do.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a dollar figure associated with all
Yeah,
this?
Commissioner,
It was $7,500 total.
I'm just asking. Yeah.
is that what it is,
Yeah.
7,500?
Commissioner Constantine?
Thank you. Did I hear something about half of the utility bills are online?
Correct.
Is there any way to, as a city dweller, I feel like I would be left out of this. So, I mean, I really do believe that, they have as much at stake because they pay just as much taxes to the county as anybody else, and are concerned about the quality of life as much as anyone else. But, so I don't know if we're hitting them well enough. I really think that we should
We're not
concentrate.
prohibiting the cities from doing their own reach out.
And the online isn't the city, the online is still county.
I know, but these are two different things that
Oh, got it.
I'm
I got
thinking
it.
of. I'm thinking off the top of my head. So going back to the first one, is there any way to engage the people that get online utility bills?
That's a great question. So there is an opportunity to include in notes, so it wouldn't be as graphic as, say, a handout. I don't think we have the capacity to add an attachment. I can certainly double check. But if we can, we'll do it.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be any cost.
Correct.
Fine.
That
So
would
I
be
think
no
we
cost.
should add that.
And for the cities as well, we'll reach out to our counterparts at the cities to make sure that we have some sort
I
of
would-
note in the online bills.
I would appreciate that.
Sure.
So if we're doing that, then, I mean, I was going to just give you a dollar figure like 5,000 and say, do what you can, but if it's 7,500, I'm not going to.
So Ashley, I have a quick question for you financially. Is the money available in your existing budget?
In my existing budget, no.
Okay, where would the money come from?
Mr. Chairman, I will ask Ashley to work with the budget office because the community relations budget does not include dollars for any type of outreach of this nature. So we'd have to work with the budget office to locate additional monies to do the outreach.
Okay. Is there any additional money that's in the AIRS program that we could earmark for this, Rebecca?
We may have additional money from other projects that is left over from this current budget year that we can look at and see if we have the $7,500 that we can just take from current budget.
I'm sure the
Yeah.
county manager can find $7,500.
Certainly, I'm sure we can. I don't want to commit to it at the moment, just not knowing off the top of my head, but I'm sure we can work with the budget office.
Okay. I'm just concerned. I just want to know where the money's coming from, that's all.
Thank you for protecting our budget. We usually do chargebacks when we send out postcards or have to have collateral printed for other departments, just because we do have a shoestring budget when it comes to marketing dollars.
So the dollar figure is $7,500.
$7,500,
The
$1,500.
county manager's department's going to work with the budget department to figure out where that money would come from.
Great.
And even though you're going to move forward, you're still going to tell us where the money's coming from.
We will, yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Lockhart?
The only thing I would add, and this is just, and I'm happy to help with these connections if necessary, but I have seen in the chamber newsletter the mention of it, but it's kind of like scroll, scroll, scroll. Yeah, like we're at the bottom. So maybe we could ask the chambers, all of them, to individually send an email just pertaining to this to all of their membership, since we have.
We can certainly ask. The majority of those type of advertisements come through our membership, so it's an additional cost to have a separate email. And I'm only speaking for one specific chamber, not all of them. But I do know, only from serving on a chamber board, I know kind of the restrictions around doing anything broader than the membership.
But there are paid opportunities with the chamber
Yes.
if we wanted to boost those, so it may be something that we could, no, okay. We could
I don't know.
We could at least look at cost.
Commissioner Herr?
Well,
I suspect what they would do is if you print out cards, they would hand them out at every single meeting, and they would have the QR code on. You would get responses, and you would probably get podium time. And we could certainly ask for that under other sponsorships that we all may have up here
Yeah.
that may be helpful.
Yes, Commissioner, actually, I was going to suggest that we talked about having a postcard or a handout printed that all the board members can also receive. You all sit on community boards, and rather than doing a presentation, you could simply pass it out to those board members, and we'll ensure the handout has enough information
Like the
so it's
Rotaries and things of
self-explanatory.
that nature.
yeah. The other thing I would say is that I believe both the college and the school district would be happy to send emails.
So I pulled the deadline to respond back up, because I think that's important to note, given school starting in August. I think we have an opportunity to reach back out to them, and they're always wonderful partners to reverberate our messaging. They've done a great job with libraries and studies that we've done with them. Most recently, they pushed out our school supply drive. Obviously, that's a little bit self-serving because it does benefit Tools for Seminole Schools. Little plug there for them. But I do think we have an opportunity to probably touch base with the folks through the schools at least twice.
30,000+ families. That's, I mean, you're reaching people with kids in their homes. So if that's a demographic we're having a hard time reaching, why not?
Thank you, Ashley. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passed unanimously. Back to the county manager. Any other?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have one other item. I'd like to ask for authorization from the board for the chairman to sign an extension, if needed, for parcel number 341931 300-001A 0000 for the Midway Drainage Project.
So moved.
Second.
Or wait a minute,
Second. So moved.
second.
There you
Any
go.
discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Anything else?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay. County attorney?
Nothing at this time.
District report, District 4.
All right. I had an opportunity last night to meet with our Seminole County hoteliers, the county the Seminole County CFHLA general managers lunch, and our tourism folks were there, our Orlando North sports and do Orlando people were all there. Such a wonderful team, and happy to be able to support that group of hoteliers. They're doing a great job. Also, I was kind of in my role as a commissioner, but also in my role as chairman of the Board of Trustees at Seminole State, interviewed by Channel 13 as a part of a panel discussion on the 50th anniversary of Title IX. The mayor of Tampa and another woman from the Tampa Sports Commission were on the panel, as well as a recent graduate from Hagerty High School, talking about all of the wonderful things that we, especially as women, have been able to participate in thanks to Title IX. The Central Florida Commission on Homelessness, we had our leadership council this last month, and I have handouts for you, not because I expect you to digest every bit of it, but there are some very interesting slides with some data that you might find fascinating. Every year we do our point-in-time count for homelessness, and actually we took a break for COVID, but but that's where people actually go out in the field and physically try to count individual homeless folks that we find in the woods or in cars or wherever they may be found. And for the first time this year, they used a technology that actually on their phone, it was an app where they were able to actually literally be geocoded to where that contact with that homeless person occurred. And it's been able to give us some amazing data. It is slide number 15, which actually shows the unsheltered points and counts in Seminole County. I think we have a concept in mind that, there are certain areas in this community that have heavier homeless populations than others, but when you look at that map, you see that it really is a county-wide issue. So I know that kind of goes back to conversations we've had with cities before about who thinks they do and who thinks they don't have homeless folks to help support. So anyway, this is just a wonderful breakdown of all the different resources, even that are available by different types of housing, and what we have that is going to be coming up for affordability. That was another huge topic of conversation. As you all know, we have a huge number of affordable units that are rolling off in terms of their whether their affordability period is 20 years or 30 years, we're coming up on some pretty large numbers of units that are no longer going to be in that affordability period. And so what are we going to do with that as a region? How are we going to handle that? So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you because it's some very interesting data. Commissioner Constantine will be installed as the incoming president of the Florida Association of Counties this weekend at the FAC conference down in Orlando, and I know he will be heading there this afternoon, as will I, and a lot of great work with our other counties around the state, and congratulations to you, Commissioner Constantine. It's going to be a fun year for everybody. That's all I have.
District 3.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner Lockhart, for that shout out. I was very honored to be at the opening of the Legacy Point, UCF's grand opening for their new retirement center, their first big development in Seminole County. And I will tell you that they already have residents there. They're more than half full as far as putting people going in, and it's quite the who's who of Central Florida residents that are moving in there, and quite an opportunity for people as they're moving into that next phase of their life. And they've got looking at a waiting list in the near future.
What number are you?
I was thinking the same thing.
I was going to be, well, right after you. What number are you? It's in your district.
I
think he's before us, Bob.
That is true, age-wise. We've already talked about the conference, the Florida Association of Counties Conference at the Hyatt Regency, but also I just wanted to say it's wonderful to see that we're getting so many of our communities that are doing the Independence Day celebrations again. So I'm just going to go down quickly on Saturday. I think we have Longwood and Oviedo. Sunday, we have the Red Hot and Boom in Altamont Springs, and on July 4th, we have the Geneva Parade, Winter Springs, and Sanford. So you can go all 3 days and see fireworks in Seminole County.
Thank you. District 5.
A very brief report, just a request. At the Port Authority meeting, it was mentioned that they are working on the site permit for the new building that they're building, which will ultimately bring in more revenue to the organization. And it was reported that it was in the permitting process for a while, so I would ask that we look into that and make sure that we are shepherding that along. I had the opportunity to meet with the Bookertown Community Association, and it was a wonderful meeting with a tour of the building that sits on the property that's owned by Seminole County Public Schools. The building is owned by the Bookertown Association, and it is in really, really deplorable condition. They did want me to report that they had met. They had agreed that they are willing to relinquish ownership and responsibility for the building at some point to have that become an extension of the park that we're already running there and possibly have a better outcome for the community. Just reporting. Links, interestingly enough, we had talked at our last meeting about the notion of the disconnect between the Sanford campus and the Links route, and there was a public comment during the Links meeting that came up and was interested in expanding that route. A lovely lady that lives off of Claremont Avenue in Lake Mary. So it was interesting that you had brought that up, and then it hit that room. She does come and speak rather frequently, but...
Joanne?
Yes. Clearly, there's community need. And with that, I will, that's it.
Thank you. My report will also be brief. On the Community for Aging Board, Nicole Preston is vacating it, and there needs to be a new appointee, so I'd like to appoint Dawn Garrison from Meals on Wheels to fill the vacant appointment position held by Nicole Preston for the Community on Aging beginning June 28, 2022, and expiring December 31st, 2022. That's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion passes. At our next county commission meeting in July, there will be an update, part of our agenda for Sunrail and about the transition. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of it before that agenda comes out. I know that both Paul Chipock and John Dredge are working very hard on that, so I want to thank them both for that. If you have any questions prior to that, please refer to either one of them. And then I also want to congratulate Commissioner Constantine again, as Commissioner Lockhart stated, in his new role as the president of FAC. It's a huge role, great feather in the cap for Seminole County, so congratulations.
Thank you, Bob.
And then I'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Steve Fussell. Today's his birthday. So Steve, if you're paying attention, where are you? See you.
It's his birthday, he's not here.
He's working somewhere. Happy
Managing a
birthday.
project.
That's the end of my report. Future agenda items, I see none. Request?
I'm so sorry.
Go
It's
right
not a
ahead.
future agenda item, but it is something I missed on a separate piece of paper for my report, which was actually kind of a follow-up to a conversation we've had at a meeting in June about the building contractors licensing board. I thought that the board was looking for feedback from the county manager, county attorney realm of how that board is convened, when it's convened, why it hasn't been convened, and who kind of says grace over that. So I just wanted to bring that back up as a reminder, because Commissioner Delary, when we talked about it last time, that was not the point of the conversation that
Correct.
your folks brought up here, but it certainly is. At some point, sometimes turns out to be never.
Well,
So
I don't
I
mean
really-
never. I don't mean putting it off until eternity, but to actually give an update right now, I'm sure that staff could, let's get prepared today.
I can give an update on one thing that we have done since then. We haven't researched all of the items you listed, but again, for the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. We have sent out a letter to all the members of the Contracting Licensing Board outlining what their duties are and the section of the code, and we told them that we would be convening in the future so that we could all meet. There haven't been any meetings because nobody's actually, or none of the building officials have brought forward any issues at this time.
Right,
We'll get with Melanie, make sure, because she's helping.
Issues at this time.
right.
We'll get with Melanie, make sure, because she's helping us with the agenda items. We'll make sure that it's somehow scheduled.
Great, thank
But I
you.
did want to let you know, at least we reached out
That's
to them
wonderful.
because you had mentioned previously that some of them weren't even sure what their roles and responsibilities were. So we at least
Exactly.
wanted to let them know. what
Thank
that-
you.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to public comments for items not related to the agenda. Ms. Beach?
Irvin Simpson is the first
Okay.
speaker form that I have.
And again, when you come to the podium, please give us your name and address for the record. Once you do that, then your time will start.
Well, good afternoon, Irvin Simpson. I live at 2091 South Ronald Reagan Boulevard. Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Couple things I just want to clarify. One, I want to make sure I think we sent a mixed message at the last meeting on Rosenwald, the start date. I mentioned there was a 3 to 5 year start date. Irvin Simpson didn't create that date. That date came up during the meeting in April. So I got beat up pretty bad when I left here from a couple phone calls and text messages that folks said, where'd you get that date from? I didn't create the date. That date came up during that meeting in April. So if we're going to say it's going to start now, I think the young lady kind of fixed it and said it's going to start now. So if it's going to start now, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to put that on the record that I didn't create that date. It came up from that meeting. On the positive sides, since the last meeting on that Thursday, I did an interview with Channel 13, and they were concerned about that date also. So the Rosenwald project is a lot bigger than me and just our community because a lot of people was watching this thing. As of last Thursday, I was contacted to Channel 13 from a Mr. Jerry Klinger. He is the Jewish American Society for Historical Preservation. And in that email that they forwarded to me, he is interested in creating the Jewish Rosenwald National Historic Park in East San Tomato, somewhere in our district. And I'll forward you that information, Commissioner, so you can have it. And I thought that was pretty huge to let me know that I guess the work that I'm doing is appreciated and is getting out more than what I thought it was. And if somebody is interested in doing more to make this Rosenwald project come alive, I think that is huge. And one of the interesting things that's in the email, it clearly states, and he has it in bold letters, said, we don't need the funding, we just need the people to tell the story.
Wow.
So I think that is huge.
That is huge. Send me that email.
Absolutely. I'll make sure you get it.
That's amazing.
And again, thank you, sir, not just for being here, but for sharing your information. And no matter what people think, people do pay attention. And these little information that we have here, as well as getting on the news, helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, our bathrooms are coming along and look like we're about to, I don't know what's the completion date. I haven't seen an updated email, but it look like it's almost done. It look like we're about to get electricity and air, and we'll be open. So hopefully we'll get an email so we can get our bathrooms open.
Good.
That's all I have.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I just ask a question?
Commissioner Herr?
Is there confusion around what's starting? So, I don't know if anybody wants to address this, but I think what we were talking about is the process starting, and I think what you may be referencing is the building starting, the moving of dirt, which is, those are entirely different things, and I think that's the confusion that's here, is that the process has to start well before the first, a blade of grass gets plucked. And so maybe we need to just provide clarity around that, because it's certainly not our intention to be anybody that's volunteering up on anything. But this is just an amazingly complicated thing that we do in terms of changing the picture of a community. And so technically, you could say it started with the conversation, but I don't think any of us would count that either, just so you know.
And I do think, I don't know if, Ms. Johnson, if Melanie's the right person or whoever is involved. I know that Mr. Applegate has put together a team of people from our side to work specifically on communications and setting expectations so that you don't have to be the voice piece. Ms. Watkins doesn't have to be the voice piece. We're going to take on the responsibility of communicating with as many community members directly as we can. There are postcards that are, I believe, going out to do exactly what we're talking about, is make sure that the communication is clear. If there are any misperceptions, to let us get those out of the way early on, because we want this is going to be a long-term project, and we need to make sure moving forward that we're building trust, not questioning. We want to start off on a real good, solid footing here. So I think the acting county manager has a really good plan for how to communicate with the public. So I don't know what the timeline is for those going out.
I just know, the postcards, if they haven't been sent, they will be any day now. Yes, so I know they were printed late last week.
Okay.
So the community will be receiving postcards. And then Mr. Applegate has asked Steve Fussell to project manage this. I did make a note, though, I think Steve's role is to bring the team together, but I don't think he's the mouthpiece for the project. So that needs to be clarified. I'm not sure who that is at this point. So we will follow up with you on that.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Shani, next.
Richard Creedon?
Oh,
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, my name is Richard Creedon. I live at 1172 Apache Drive, Geneva, Florida. I'm speaking as the Vice President of the Geneva Citizens Association. My reason for speaking today is to support a cause that is near and dear to my heart, the acquisition and preservation of more natural lands within Seminole County. On July 26th, you will be asked to support putting a natural lands purchase referendum on November's ballot. As a point of historical record, none of the three previous bond referendums, 1990, 2000, or 2006, were put on the ballot as a result of gathering voter signature petitions. All three were put on the ballot by the BCC because the commissioners thought that they would be good for our county. So, no new precedent would be set if you agree to place this referendum on the ballot without signature petitions. The 1990 and 2000 initiatives, respectively, were all about acquiring more of our rapidly disappearing natural lands for future generations to enjoy. We have sufficient time between July 26th and November to inform folks about the importance of the referendum. That window of opportunity is very similar or even greater than in the previous three referendums. The beauty of this proposal is that it's a win-win for you commissioners if it goes on the ballot. If it passes, money will be available without you having to ask for a tax increase. If it loses, you could say that you gave the citizens a choice whether they wanted to acquire more natural lands. Although we would greatly value your active support to pass the referendum, it is not required of you. We are only asking for a chance for Seminole County residents to vote yes or no. This would be direct democracy at its absolute best. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Christine Watkins?
Who do we have after Ms. Watson?
David Bacon?
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Watkins. I live at 639 Lake Mobile Drive, Altamont Springs, Florida. I am president of South Seminole Community Association for Progress, and I see my time is going to go up to 6 minutes. Is that right?
She's going to take care of it.
A couple of meetings ago, a presenter shared some information that was contrary to factual research. And that was, Wynwood does not exist. As a result, I'm here to dispel the myth with facts. July 12, 1886, and I have gifts for you guys. Some of you may not be aware that Altamont Springs was in Orange County. Here's a map that indicates and it has the date and all this good stuff, and it's even laminated for you. I'll get my money for it at the end of the year. Moving right along, November 1922 and 1923, Wynwood Park maps were filed. One map This one is Wynwood Park, and these things are at the record department. And then I wanted to put on the overhead, but that doesn't look like the overhead I had when I was in school. So if someone can help me with some of this, I would greatly appreciate it.
Towards your right-hand side.
Oh, sorry. Are you gonna stand there and doing this? Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is Wynwood Park. Hi, Doll, you know how to do that, don't you? This is Wynwood Park, and this was back in 1922, 23. And the next one is the replat of Wynwood Park. This is part of your gift packet. Okay, moving right along. In November 1951, the state of Florida, Richard W. Irvin, Attorney General, and on behalf of Conda Merritt and 80-plus residents versus town of Altamont Springs. Going back up to 1922, 1923, there were 40% blacks and 60% whites living in the city of Altamont Springs. I was not there, so I came later. In 1951, Wynwood was legally split from the city of Altamont Springs. Why? Because they contended that they were paying equal taxes but not getting the services. Therefore, they were split from the city of Altamont Springs. So the question has come up, where is Wynwood? On one documentation that I have, with the strategic planning, well, I had it, it indicates that you're going to get it all today in 6 minutes, trust me. Strategic planning, 1987, Wynwood Park target area. And this is part of that documentation. The Wynwood Park area of Seminole County was surveyed in February 1987 to determine land uses, etc. Now, the Wynwood Park target area is defined by Magnolia Street to the north, Lake Howell Road to the east, State Road 436 to the south, and Sanford Road to the west. Map 2. However, these are just the target areas, some of this. Magnolia Street is not in Wynwood. This area, Harmony Homes, where these streets are, it indicates that those subdivisions include Plymouth, DeSoto, and Mercury Streets. Those are in Harmony Homes. They are at the northwest corner of Wynwood Park. And the northwest corner of Wynwood Park is Blake Street. And when you get to the legal document, you will note that Lula Blake, and there's a street, Lula Blake, lives on that street. Therefore, that was a point of contention with where Wynwood Park is located. It also says on
Ms. Watkins, you're running out of time, so you need to try to conclude.
I have 3 minutes and.
You've given you 6 minutes so far.
Oh, gosh.
Time's over.
I said, I'm asking her to.
I'll speed
try
it
and
up.
help her.
I'll speed it up. I'm sorry. Well, anyway, I have this for you, so you'll know where Wynwood is here. But you may say, well, anyone could have had that map going. The way that I found out exactly where Wynwood was, I went to the property appraisal. And when I went to the property appraisal, I took the legal document and I asked them, could they tell me exactly where Wynwood is? I gave them the final judgment. And the final judgment gives a description of those properties that were impacted in terms of being part of the legal document, and this is where Wynwood is located. Property appraisal did this map for me. They didn't put the streets on. I could tell where the streets were based on how they constructed the map. And as a matter of fact, I had more information. However, I'm going to, and if you want to know where it is, take the final judgment. I have it right here to our property appraisal, and they will show you exactly where Wynwood is. It's kind of shocking that Heyman, which is on Marker Street or near Marker Street, there's an addition to it, and then there's an additional to, whereas it's on Jackson Street northwest. And that ends where it goes to Granada South. Granada South is not part of Wynwood. The food bank is Wynwood. But this will clarify, if you go to the property appraisal, I don't have a personal one. So if you go to Seminole County's property appraisal, you'll find out exactly where Wynwood is.
Okay.
And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner Lockhart?
Ms. Watkins, would you mind, while you're here and you have all those documents, would you mind if we made a photocopy of those so that we can keep a set here? Because I'm assuming you didn't bring 2 copies.
Oh, you're going to keep all of this?
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Fabulous.
I told you, that was my initial statement.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
If you
all
could
right.
just give it to
Okay.
the
All
clerk,
of this,
she'll
I
be-
have copies and copies on top of
Okay,
copies.
wonderful. Thank you. Could we just make sure that we
Make sure that I have
get that?
everything for you.
Scan it off and I'll just email it.
Correct.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Hold on, I have to fit my math.
I get it.
And I thank you.
And we thank you. Ms. Beach, who's next?
Our last speaker is Mr. David Bacon.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. It's nice to get a chance to talk with you. I came here today
Excuse me,
because
Mr.
of
Bacon?
that.
Mr. Bacon?
Name and
Can you give us your name and address for the record,
Oh.
please?
David Bacon, 3240 Mary Lane, Mount Dora, Florida, 32757.
Thank you.
I came here because I saw this notice in the paper about where you were going to look into the ordinance involving animals and fowl.
Okay.
Now, just to give you a little history, I am a life member of the Central Florida Pigeon Fanciers Association.
Okay.
and I am also in the American Racing Pigeon Union Hall of Fame.
Well,
I
congratulations.
got there primarily because I've been involved in the pigeon fancy, is what it's called, for some over 36 years. Started when I was a kid, back in 1948. Had pigeons, and then I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I chose between the pigeons and the girlfriend, got rid of the pigeons, married the girl, and I won't talk about that. But anyway.
Well, let's not go there. Let's talk about the subject right now.
I've had pigeons, like I say, in 2 homes in New York State and 1 in Georgia and in Eustis and in Mount Dora. Been involved with the sport in different clubs, show clubs, racing pigeon clubs, got trophies over half the wall in the garage. But I've also been very involved in getting rules and regulations straightened out so people can enjoy the hobby. You folks are unique in that you don't have pigeons in the thing that covers dogs and fowl. You've got it, some other agency. It's rare. And I want to tell you, some of the cities and counties are weird. But anyway, I got some stuff to give you.
Okay.
The first, which I helped put together, was from Representative Kelly from the state of Florida House of Representatives, a resolution recognizing pigeon fanciers in the state of Florida. And it goes through the history, you know, how many pigeon people are in the state of Florida, and about 4,000 years of pigeons being domesticated. It goes into the use of sending messages for years, the fact of the thousands of lives saved by messages taken by homing pigeons during World War I, II in Korea. It also talks about the different types of breeds, over 300 different breeds of pigeons in the world that are all domesticated from the rock dove. You say, boy, that's a lot. There's 700 breeds of dogs that were developed from wolves. And
Mr. Bacon,
told you I'd give you a couple
Mr. Bacon,
letters.
I don't mean to cut you short, but you've gone through your 3 minutes. If you can summarize what you're asking of us, would be greatly
I'm
appreciated.
not asking you of anything.
Okay.
I'm giving you,
Okay?
okay? The largest and smallest breed of pigeons was developed in Spain. The Valencia figurita is about that long, weighs 9 ounces. The biggest is the Tenat, T-E-N-A-T. They have wingspans up to 5 feet. So I'm going to give you
Working on it.
a copy of this for you folks to look at. If you ever decide to move the pigeon hobby under different laws, this gives definitions of what different types of birds there are.
Okay?
And on the back, it lists the 4 breeds that compete. Okay, the racing homers that race long distances, the rollers that do backflips in the air, the tipplers that fly for hours straight up over their loft, and the parlor roller that rolls on the ground backwards for over 300 feet. This is a fact sheet the American Racing Pigeon Union. I made one change. This is kind of old. The last one said that the highest priced homing pigeon sold for $225,000. That's gone. In the last couple of months, a homing pigeon was sold for $1.9 million. The last is pictures of pigeon lofts that I built for little kids in Central Florida and in Georgia. And what I'm saying is that if you ever get involved with the laws involving having the pigeon hobby in people's backyard, I volunteer my time to help you do it beautifully.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you
Greatly
very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. I might have a
Anyone
new
else?
hobby.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak to the board at this time? Anything that's not on the agenda? We'll close public comments. I'd like to ask County Manager, anything additional? County Attorney?
Nothing at this time.
Anything from the board, closing? Have a great day. The meeting is now adjourned.